Hi, Celine. Long time no see.
It has been. While we give a minute for others to arrive, I'm curious, what is your favorite ice cream flavor? Pop that into the chat if you'd like to. What is your favorite ice cream flavor? I guess I'm thinking of ice cream because it's so warm here in the UK. It almost feels like I'm in a place like this. We have honeycomb. How different. And vanilla, salted caramel. Philip, I could share an ice cream with you. I think mine would be pistachio today. It changes, you know? Wonderful. It's lovely to see everybody arriving. I hope that you're feeling comfortable. For some of you, it might be the start of your day. I know for a lot of us, it's the end of our day. Right. And if you haven't already commented, I'd love to know what your favorite ice cream flavor is. Chocolate fudge. Alison, you don't mess around. And perhaps notice if this is the first time today that you've heard music and how that's making you feel. Some of us enjoy auditory. We're going to talk about the senses and how that can help us come into the moment. Right. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad I got the music to work. Those of you that were here yesterday at the launch live, or if you watched the recording, once again, welcome to my oasis, which is no longer just mine, it's now ours. And the word welcome starts with well, and we're chatting about well-being this week at the Wellbeing Immersion. And for me, why I chose the analogy of a well where we have water or an oasis where there is water is because a lot of us are, well, we are feeling drained, we're feeling dry, parched, tired, jaded. And so I'm hoping that every time you come and join me in this oasis, that you feel a little bit more soothed and nourished. And just by being here and taking a little sip, that is enough. If you feel like you need to gulp things in, great. You don't need to do anything. The declaration you've made just by being here and giving yourself time, because I know how busy we all are, is a very powerful declaration that your well-being is important to you. And if you did watch the launch and you went through the Wellculator assessment, which I did send as a follow-up note, by the way, so I know some people asked me for a reminder of it. So every day I will send a follow-up email with a link to the recording, as well as any resources. So tonight or today, when this session is over, please look out for an email from me with the link to the recording, as well as I'll attach the Wellculator again and another handout that refers to the topic that we're going to talk about. So I'm curious for those of you that did make a pledge when we ended our session yesterday, or if you've watched the recording, how that's gone for you. Did you manage to put it into practice? Are you feeling as if you're immersing a little bit in your well-being? Because we can't all go away for like 5 days on holiday, but we can do what we're doing now, which is immerse ourselves and take a few sips of refreshing water for half an hour a day. And as I mentioned yesterday, every session is going to have something that you can think about, so something to help with our mental well-being. We're then going to have an opportunity to connect with our heart and our emotional well-being. And really important, I'm going to get you to use your hands and commit to some kind of action that you're going to take. So either you're going to stay focused on your personal pledge that you made yesterday, or maybe there's something that comes up, and trust that whatever comes to your mind today in the session or as you watch this recording is exactly what you need. So today's topic, it's Monday, and for me it's all about being mindful. And it's difficult to be mindful if our mind is full. So how is your mind feeling? Maybe just take a moment to bring your attention inward into this headspace, you know, this 4-pound universe, this 2-kilogram universe that sits on your shoulders. And if you were to describe how your mind is feeling, your thoughts, what word would you use? I doubt it would be chocolate fudge or cookie dough or salted caramel. Maybe, if it feels quite sweet inside. Oh, thank you, Heather. You're feeling a bit sluggish in your mind. Anybody else happy to share Bursting. Bursting could be good. But maybe, Jenny, because I know you, I imagine it might not be the good version of bursting. Playful, foggy, flat, sluggish. Oh, great. Tired. Busy. Okay, so there's a million other things you could be thinking about. So I know it's not easy to always stop multitasking, but you're here now. So I invite you to, if you can, put any other devices away for the next 20 minutes. I promise you to finish on time. And this is an opportunity for you to either build on the playfulness that you're feeling or to maybe reduce the sense of fatigue and sluggishness. Because I'm going to share with you 2 techniques that if you aren't using already, you could potentially consider doing. And why? Like, why is mindfulness important enough to have as a topic? Well, it helps our head, our heart, and our body. So we know that mindfulness can help reduce anxiety and depression. It can help you get better performance cognitively, so you can get more done in less time. It helps you reduce the impact of the stress response. It lowers your blood pressure. It can also help you savor more from every moment and also help you not feel like you're living in the past or the future. And so for me, it's quite sad when we live either ahead of something or behind something, and then we don't fully appreciate it, and then we look back and it feels like days have just merged into weeks and months. And so mindfulness for me at the moment is really about helping me appreciate where we are in the nature of time and the cycle now. So that's a bit of the why this topic is important. I'd like us to take a look at the how. So if you aren't already bringing in mindfulness, how can you do that? Let me share my slide, because I have a beautiful quote here from someone that some of you may be aware of, Thich Nhat Hanh. And this remains one of my favorite, where he says, and maybe just a thumbs up to be sure that you can see the slide. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, because you can never take anything for granted in life. It's always throwing us lemons. Drink your tea slowly and reverently, as if it is the axis on which the earth revolves. So as a mindfulness expert indeed, I think this tells us that mindfulness matters the most in the small moments where the stakes are low. So how can you be more mindful in the moments when you're holding a mug, for instance, and enjoying a cup of tea or coffee or water? How can you be more mindful in your mornings when you open up your eyes and you first awaken and greet the world? We're going to talk about that tomorrow in the session on Turned on Tuesday. How could you be more mindful around maybe your meals and then extend that to your movement? But really it starts with in the moment mindfulness in small bites. I mean, it's great if you've got a mindfulness practice. And I know that some of you, Philip, for instance, are avid meditators, and that's a form of mindfulness. But it's no good to have a half an hour mindfulness practice where you sit and maybe meditate or use Headspace app or you go out into nature. That's good. But then the rest of the 10 or 11 or 12 hours, you're so frantic and caught up with work that you forget to be in the moment. Because that's what mindfulness is, right? It's present moment awareness. So we try not to be in the future or the past. And we're compassionate and curious, so we're not judgmental. If this was easy, we would all be doing it. But it isn't. One of the reasons why, just one, is, and this is fascinating research that's come out of Microsoft looking at usage trends of Teams. And what happens here, you can see a graph on the screen of brain scans showing how active the brain is and the levels of stress. So we've got different brain waves. Starting right now, we're all in beta brainwave. So beta is where we pay attention. We're probably in medium to high beta. You're quite alert based on the one-word check-ins that tells me if you're feeling tired and sluggish, that you're functioning at that brainwave activity, which means that you're not in alpha, which is where we have the ability for big picture thinking, creative solutions, much more lateral, deeper thinking. And then, of course, when we sit and practice mindfulness and meditation, or when we daydream, or when we perhaps start to drop into sleep or nap, we can move into theta, brainwave activity, and then into delta, which is essential if you want to avoid dementia and help the brain heal. But what we know is when we're in back-to-back meetings, like you probably just got off a call or a meeting, or you were answering emails, or you may still be doing that if you're choosing to multitask. Your brain, as you can see by that scan, by that picture, that over time, it moves from blue hues to more yellow hues. And when we measured the level of beta brainwave activity, if there were no breaks between the meetings, so this was 2 hours of 4 back-to-back meetings, the stress in the brain accumulated. It got more and more. Whereas when the participants took a break in between the meetings, and they didn't take a break and answered more emails or made a call, but they actually took a break away from the screen, and I'm going to share with you some ways that you can do that, we did not see this accumulation of beta brainwave or stress in the brain. In fact, there was recovery and better functioning mentally. So I know that we can't always take 10-minute breaks between half-an-hour meetings. I can't even do that. But what can we do? Could you potentially take, these are some of my minimum guidelines that I recommend if you are spending a lot of time behind screens, is at a minimum in the middle of your day. So how was your day today? And if you're at the start of your day, will you be able to take a 20-minute lunch break as a minimum away from your screens? If you're not doing that, chances are you're not being as productive in the afternoon, and that accumulation of stress, not just in your brain, we're focusing specifically on the mind today, but the impact is everywhere. When we're in the stress response and we're hyper aroused, our blood pressure goes up, our digestion doesn't work that well, our immunity gets suppressed, and we're constantly in this fight or flight, which is exhausting. It's like living on an accelerator all day without ever applying the brakes. So minimum is a 20-minute break somewhere in the middle of your workday, and then if you can, 2 minutes every hour. Or as a minimum, the 20-20-20 guideline is to look away from your screen every 20 minutes for 20 seconds. And the guideline is to look 20 feet away or 20 meters away, basically look far away. So right now, if you're able to, I'm giving you permission. In fact, I'm asking you to look away from your screen and just blink your eyes. This is a minimum to help avoid eye strain, but it also keeps you present of what's happening in the moment. And maybe you'll notice if you're a bit tense in your shoulders, or could you relax a bit? And then after you've blinked a few times and maybe engaged with your breath, come back to the screen. And here is another powerful exercise that I've often done with some of you, and I continue to do almost on a daily basis. And that is what I call the mindful minute exercise. So I'm going to set my timer, and I'm going to ask you to count how many breath cycles you take in the next minute. So without changing your breath, bring your awareness to your breath, and every inhale and exhale is 1 cycle. So are you ready? I'd like you to count how many breath cycles you take for the next minute. I'll let you know when a minute is up, starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring your awareness to your heart, to your breath in the center of your chest, and notice, count how many breath cycles you take. And if your mind has wandered, that's cool. Without judgment, simply bring it back to your breath. And there we go, that's 1 minute. If you're happy to share in the chat, I'd like to know, I'm curious, how many breath cycles did you take in that minute? Jenny, thank you. 8, 14, 12, 15, 9.5, 20. Michael, maybe that was because you were laughing hysterically just before you started the exercise. 10, 12, 6, Fabrice. Wow, Francis, 26. So we've got quite a range. It looks like we're ranging from upper 20s to a few single digits. Okay. So, without going too much into the science, because if you're interested in the science, you can always reply to any of my emails and ask me, say, hey, Celine, you said that thing, it sounded a bit woo-woo, where did you get that from? Heart Math Institute and many other studies are showing that when we take slower, deeper breaths, so if we're breathing single digits, so ideally 6 to 8 breath cycles per minute, it is almost impossible for the inside of your body to believe that it's in the stress response. So no matter what's going on around you, you could have some chaos going on. You'll still have the pressures of like 4 back-to-back meetings, or the fact that your internet connection has gone down, or that the dogs are barking outside, or whatever that might be, or you've just spilled coffee on your keyboard, or your kids driving you crazy, and there's the idea of lockdown being extended. If you control your breath and breathe deeply and slowly, ideally single digits in a minute, the message from your heart to your brain and to the rest of your nervous system is one more of calm than of chaos. So for those of you that were more than single digits, maybe this is something that you could think about putting into practice. And the only time we put things into practice is if we nudge ourselves, because life is so full, right? So yesterday at the launch, I asked each of you to commit to doing one of 6 things, which was, once you have a pledge or an idea, let's say you'd like to do this mindful minute to check in with your breath. How are you going to remember to do that? So you can write it on a post-it note and stick it somewhere that you'll see it. Grab some lipstick and write it on your bathroom mirror. Stick a note or an ornament or something that will remind you to do the mindful minute or the pledge that you committed to on your bedside table, because at least then in the morning and the evening you'll be reminded about it. Or maybe set an alarm on your phone. I know that a few of you sent me some notes after the session yesterday saying that you had set the alarm. When I'm starting a new behavior, I sometimes set 4 alarms in the day. It's a bit of a nuisance when I forget about the alarm and it goes off in the middle of a meeting or a presentation. But we need to make it easy for ourselves, because if this was easy, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We would all be healthy and happy and wealthy and well. And so be realistic, make your changes small and tiny. I often say that. And then remind yourself and make it super easy. And then, of course, celebrate, which we'll talk about on Thursday and Friday. So the breath is a wonderful indicator of how stressed you are. It's also a lovely way to regulate the stress response and to tap into more of a sense of mindfulness. And so if that's one thing that you perhaps think about doing more of, that's a big, big win. Because, as I said, when we don't create space to think or to even notice how our minds are, it can be very difficult to be mindful, which is about being in the present moment without judgment and not worrying about the future or the past. And for those of you that enjoy music, or perhaps you play a musical instrument, you'll understand this analogy too. You know, we need pauses. I showed you the brain scans. So for those of you that are more analytical, the data shows that the brain works better when we have breaks. And so too does music. I mean, if there were no pauses in between the music notes, music would just be this great big noisy cacophony, right? So where are the pauses? I call them more moments, M-O-R-E, moments of rest during your day. Because if we don't have moments of rest, it can be almost impossible to actually rest at the end of the day when we want to fall into a deep sense of sleep. Another really great exercise besides the mindful minute, which I've just taken you through, is also to use your senses. And by senses, I mean what you can see, what you can touch, what you can feel, what you can hear, what you can smell, how you breathe, and what you can taste. Because when we're focusing or acknowledging or noticing what we see and feel and touch and hear, we can't be in the future and we're not in the past, we're in the present moment. So if you haven't done this today, let's do this exercise together. I invite you to look around the space that you're in, away from the screen, another break for your eyes, and notice to yourself, acknowledge 5 things that you can see. And perhaps make them 5 things that lift your spirits just a little. So maybe it's a color or a picture or an ornament or something that you like. And if you cannot see 5 things around you, and if this is the space that you work in for a third of your life, or you're spending a lot of time either at, I'm assuming most of us are at home or in our offices, could you maybe bring in things into that environment that make you feel good when you look at them? Be it a picture or a quote, or I'm using a green screen so you can't see my flowers, but I always have flowers behind me that makes me feel joyful. It's these little small things that can set up our environment for joy. And that when we hold positive emotion, we also help the body feel calmer despite what's going on around us. So now I'd like you to use your sense of touch and feel 4 things. Let's start with your feet. So if I'm standing, so I can feel, I'm actually wearing shoes. I got really dressed up for this. So can you feel the ground beneath your feet? Can you feel the chair supporting the back of your buttocks or your back if you're on a chair? Maybe you can reach out and touch something and just notice if it's a cooler temperature. Perhaps I just felt the hair against the nape of my skin, and it's quite warm here in the UK, so I'm quite aware of the air around me feeling warm. And then what can you hear besides my voice? Because I'm running Zoom, I can hear the hum of my computer. It's a bit louder than usual. What can you hear outside of the space that you're currently in? Because stress makes us constrict, and we often become very focused on this, the screen or the email or the person or the proposal that's right in front of us. And when we remember that there's actually a space outside and beyond the room that we're in that can help increase our sense of peripersonal space. So can you hear anything outside? The traffic, some birds. And then for some people, the sense of smell can be very relaxing. So smell goes straight to the olfactory part of the brain and bypasses the prefrontal cortex. So we can tap into good and not so good memories sometimes through smell. I'm not going to ask you to smell anything, but I am going to ask you to take 2 deep breaths because you have 2 nostrils. So breathe in as deeply as you can into your belly and as feels comfortable. And without holding your breath, immediately go into a long, slow exhale. So this is called circular breathing, when we don't allow for the pause between the inhale and the exhale. And as you've exhaled, take an immediate inhale again, deeply into your belly. And as you exhale, perhaps notice if there's any tension you could release, especially in your neck and your jaw and your shoulders. And then with the sense of taste, maybe if you have a glass of water close by, because you know how important hydration is, you could have a sip of water. Or you could maybe just bring a smile to your mouth. So lift the corners of your mouth. And if thinking about your favorite flavor of ice cream is cool and makes you happy, great. I shouldn't really be doing that as an example as a dietitian. But is there something that you're grateful for in this moment? Gratitude is a very powerful emotion that I'm going to build on practical ways that you can do that on Thursday. So now we're going to do the mindful minute one more time. And from this place of having tapped into our senses, I'm just curious to see if there's any change. So I'm going to set my timer again, and I invite you to bring your awareness to your breath, counting your breath cycles for the next minute, starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And once again, if your mind feels full and it's popping and bursting all over the show, that's okay. Kindly, without criticism, maybe even playfully, bring your awareness back to your breath. There we go. And perhaps notice, you don't need to share with me, but I'd like you to reflect on if you took less breath cycles, more breath cycles, the same. Maybe hands up for less. Fabrice, you went down to 5. Hi Leonie, good to see you. Michael, you've come down, right, I think? Less. Alison, thank you. Wow, we're all at single digits. Sure, I'm surprised. I knew it was going to work, but that's really good. So when we took a few moments to use the senses to come into the moment, can you see how your body, your parasympathetic nervous system, responded without you having to even know what was going on? So you moved more into the rest and digest as opposed to the fight and flight, which is exhausting and draining, and part of the issue as to why we're feeling so parched and so dry. So, sure. What has stood out for you today? If you think through, I'm going to go back to my oasis. We're going to wrap up in the next 2 minutes. And I know that I'm not opening up for questions, but you are welcome to respond to any of my emails if you do have any questions. The idea is just to share something for your mind, to have an opportunity to connect with your heart. And then now, as we wrap up, what action are you going to take? How are you going to move your hands? And thank you, Alison. It's as if you're like the person with the sticker under the chair. I love it. Place in the chat if you'd like to. What is your one insight from today? What is something that you're going to keep doing? Maybe you're going to keep on working on your pledge from yesterday. Quite a few of you yesterday committed to something around mindfulness. So will you do something to help you build that practice? What will be your one thing? Yeah, Leonie, that's absolutely true. It really is a powerful thing. So I'm going to say adieu, but before I do that, I wanted to share with you a quote that I think I came up with. And for somebody who's a functional workaholic, this is something that I constantly work at. So my parting note to you is that sometimes the most productive thing that you can do is actually to do nothing. And it can be terrifying. If we're used to being on fire, stopping can be very scary, and there will be smoke. So start small, bite-sized. Start with a mindful minute once a day, then maybe twice a day, then work up to 2 minutes an hour, a 20-minute lunch break. Remember to give your eyes a bit of a break by looking away from the screen, and know that it's doing your head, your heart, and your body the world of good. So thank you everybody for being here. If you'd like to unmute yourselves and say goodbye, this is such a wonderful community. I look so forward to seeing you tomorrow. If you can't make it, look out for the recording, and you're worth half an hour a day. This is your spa holiday this week. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Celine.
Bye.
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 Thank you, Celine.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Celine.
Cheerio, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you. Nice to
you.
see you again, Chris.
Thanks, Celine.
Thank you, Andrew.
It refreshed my mind of stuff that you told us some time ago. And your mindful minute of deep breathing is actually what I have used since then
Wow.
to switch off and go to sleep at night.
That's a great benefit,
So
right?
there's no point me doing it in the middle of the day because I got to stay awake.
Well, Andrew, I wish I was like you. It takes me about 15 of those 1 minutes to get to sleep at night.
No, it's that deep breathing and just getting the oxygen going and relaxing. But I've used it many years now. Thank you.
Wonderful. So good to see you. I hope you can join
Yeah.
again. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.